My sister Emily died on a Tuesday morning in October. It was one of those clear American fall days. The kind where the sky looks almost too blue to hold bad news. I remember staring at my phone for a long time after the hospital called. I kept waiting for someone to tell me it was a mistake. But it wasn't. Emily was 3 years younger than me. Growing up, she was the brave one. The loud one. The one who defended me in school fights and still cried during dog food commercials. When she married Daniel, I wasn't sure about him. He wasn't a bad man. Just quiet. Reserved. Hard to read. But Emily loved him. And when Emily loved someone, she loved with her entire heart. They had a daughter a year later. Lily. The smallest, softest thing I'd ever held. After Emily died, Daniel called me the next day. His voice sounded hollow, like something inside him had collapsed. I don't know how I'm going to do this alone, he said. And I believed him. Grief does strange things to people. It either hardens them or breaks them. Daniel sounded broken. At the funeral, Lily clung to his leg. She was only 5, too young to understand what forever meant. I made a promise that day. Not out loud. Not to anyone else. Just to myself. I would never let Emily's daughter struggle. Not while I was alive. I run a logistics company in Chicago. I've been fortunate. Hard work, long nights, a little luck. By 38, I was comfortable. Not billionaire comfortable, but secure. The first year after Emily passed, I wired Daniel $27,000. It wasn't a random number. It covered private school tuition, extracurricular activities, medical insurance, and a little extra for savings. I didn't want Lily's future to shrink because her mother was gone. Daniel tried to refuse it at first. I can't accept this, he said. It's too much. It's for Lily, I told him. There was a long silence. Then he said, thank you. That became our rhythm. Every October. $27,000. I didn't ask questions. I didn't demand updates. I trusted him. Sometimes he'd send photos of Lily at school plays or soccer games. She was growing fast. Brown hair like Emily. Same stubborn chin. But something changed in the second year. Daniel stopped calling as much. Texts became shorter. Photos less frequent. When I asked about visiting, he always had a reason. She's busy with school. She's not feeling well. Maybe next month. Grief affects people differently, I told myself. Single parenting isn't easy. Still, a quiet unease settled in my chest. By the 3rd year, I barely recognized Lily's voice when I called on her birthday. She sounded distant. Polite. Like I was an acquaintance, not her uncle. That hurt more than I expected. But I kept sending the money. Because that's what family does. Right? Then last Friday happened. I had just finished a late meeting. It was raining. The kind of steady Chicago rain that turns the city silver. My assistant buzzed my office. There's a young girl here asking for you, she said. She says she's your niece. I frowned. That's not possible. She insisted. I walked out to the lobby. And there she was. Lily. Except she wasn't the little 5-year-old I remembered. She was 8 now. Taller. Thinner than she should have been. Holding a small backpack. Her sneakers were soaked. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Lily. I said. She looked up at me. And I saw it. Fear. Not the shy kind. Not the nervous kind. The kind that makes children older than they should be. Uncle Mark, she whispered. I dropped to my knees and hugged her. She didn't hug back at first. She felt fragile. After a moment, she wrapped her arms around me like she was holding on to something solid for the first time in a long while. How did you get here? I asked gently. She swallowed. I took a bus. My heart stopped. From where? From home. That was nearly 3 hours away. Does your dad know you're here? She shook her head. And that's when something inside me shifted. A cold awareness. Lily, I said softly. Why did you come? She hesitated. Looked at the floor. Then back at me. You send Daddy money every year, right? My stomach tightened. Yes. He told me Mommy left us nothing. He said we're always struggling. Her voice cracked. But I found the papers. Papers? What papers? In his office. Bank stuff. Transfers. Her small fingers twisted the straps of her backpack. He said we couldn't afford lunch money sometimes. He said I shouldn't ask for new shoes because we're broke. She looked down at her wet sneakers. They hurt when I walk. I felt heat rise in my chest. Slow. Dangerous. How much money do you think I send? I asked carefully. She sniffed. I saw $27,000. The lobby felt suddenly too small. Too quiet. And where does he say it goes? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached into her backpack and pulled out something folded. A piece of paper. She handed it to me with trembling hands. It was a bank statement. Not from a struggling single father barely making ends meet. From a personal investment account. High-end luxury purchases. Casino withdrawals. International travel bookings. My transfers clearly listed. 3 years. $81,000. Gone. Not for Lily. Not for school. Not for savings. My hands started shaking. I forced myself to stay calm for her. Why didn't you tell someone? I asked softly. She looked up at me, eyes glossy. He said if I ever told anyone about the money, you'd stop loving me. That broke me. Right there in the middle of my own office lobby. I pulled her into my arms again. I could never stop loving you, I said. And I meant it. But something else was rising inside me now. Not just anger. Not just betrayal. Resolve. Daniel hadn't just stolen money. He had used my sister's death. He had used my niece's fear. And he had underestimated me. I stood up slowly, holding Lily's hand. Sweetheart, I said gently, you're safe now. She squeezed my hand like she didn't quite believe it yet. But she wanted to. And in that moment, I made a second promise. The first one had been about protecting her future. This one was about protecting her from her own father. And I had no idea how far I was about to go. A pause. She had no right to leave. She's 8. She's dramatic. Dramatic. She took a bus alone, I said, keeping my voice level. Do you understand how dangerous that is? She's stubborn. Like her mother. There was no fear in his voice. No urgency. No relief. Just irritation. I've seen the bank statements, I said. Silence. Longer this time. You've been using the money, I continued. Not for her. He exhaled sharply. You think raising a kid is cheap? You think I don't deserve something for everything I've sacrificed? Sacrificed. I repeated. I lost my wife, he snapped. My life ended too. And so you gamble? I said quietly. That hit. His breathing changed. You don't know what it's like, he said. You're right, I replied. I don't know what it's like to take money meant for my daughter and spend it at casinos. His voice turned cold. She told you, didn't she? She showed me. Another pause. You're not taking her, he said. She's already here. You don't have custody. That word landed heavy. Custody. He was right. Legally, Lily was his daughter. I'm coming to get her tomorrow, he continued. No, I said that. He laughed once, humorless. You think you can just keep her? I think we're going to have a serious conversation. You always thought you were better than me, he muttered. This isn't about me. It's about control. It always has been. That was the first time I heard it clearly. This wasn't grief anymore. This was resentment. I'll see you tomorrow, he said and hung up. I stood there for a long time staring at the dark window. Rain streaked down the glass. My phone buzzed again. A text from him. If you try anything, I'll make sure she never sees you again. Threat. Not fear. Threat. The next morning, Lily woke up early. She sat at the kitchen counter while I made pancakes. Is Daddy coming? She asked quietly. Yes. She nodded, but her hands tightened around her cup. Am I in trouble? No. Her eyes searched my face, trying to measure how true that was. I don't want to go back, she whispered. That sentence changed everything. Children don't say that lightly. I crouched in front of her. Has he hurt you? I asked again. She looked down. Sometimes he grabs my arm too hard. I felt something dangerous rise in me again. And when he drinks? She nodded. Does he hit you? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. A knock at the door interrupted us. Daniel. Right on time. I opened it slowly. He looked different. Thinner. Eyes tired. But not broken. Just bitter. He glanced past me. Lily. She stayed seated. He forced a smile. Come here, sweetheart. She didn't move. That tiny act of resistance said more than any accusation could. Daniel's jaw tightened. Don't make a scene, he muttered. This isn't a scene, I said calmly. This is a conversation. He stepped inside without waiting to be invited. You've poisoned her against me, he said quietly. I didn't need to, I replied. His eyes flashed. She's my daughter. And she's my sister's child. He leaned closer. You think you can buy loyalty with money? No, I said. But you tried. For a second, I thought he might swing at me. Instead, he looked at Lily. You embarrassed me, he said to her. She flinched. That was it. Stop, I said sharply. You don't talk to her like that. He turned back to me. You don't get to tell me how to raise my kid. Then raise her, I said. Because right now she's scared of you. Silence filled the room. He looked at her again. She couldn't meet his eyes. Something shifted in his expression. Not guilt. Calculation. You want to keep her? He asked slowly. I didn't answer. You'll need lawyers, he continued. You'll need proof. You'll need to show I'm unfit. His smile was thin. And unless she has bruises you can photograph, good luck. Lily's fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. That's when I realized this wasn't just about money. This was going to become a war. And wars aren't won with anger. They're won with patience. Daniel stepped toward Lily again. Get your things. She looked at me. Just one look. And in that look was fear, trust, and a silent plea. I stood between them. She's not going anywhere today. His eyes darkened. You don't get to decide that. No, I said calmly. A judge does. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. You wouldn't. I already called an attorney. That was a lie. But it wouldn't be for long. Daniel stared at me for a long moment. Then he leaned in close and whispered, You have no idea what you're starting. Maybe he was right. But as I felt Lily's small hand slip into mine, trembling but determined, I knew one thing. I wasn't backing down. And if Daniel thought this was about pride or money, he was about to learn it was about something much more dangerous. Truth. That night Lily didn't say much. I took her to my apartment instead of a hotel. It felt wrong to put her anywhere temporary. She sat quietly at my kitchen table while I ordered food. When the delivery arrived, she hesitated before touching it. You can eat, I told her gently. She nodded, but she ate slowly, carefully, like someone who had learned not to assume there would always be more. That detail didn't leave my mind. After dinner, I gave her one of my spare hoodies and set up the guest room. She stood in the doorway for a long time. It's just for me, she asked. Yes. No one else sleeps here? No one. She stepped inside like she was entering something sacred. Later, when I checked on her, she wasn't asleep. She was staring at the ceiling. Uncle Mark? I'm here. Are you mad at Daddy? Children ask questions adults are afraid to answer. I'm confused, I said carefully. She was quiet. Then she whispered, He gets different when he drinks. There it was. A missing piece sliding into place. How different? I asked softly. She swallowed. He yells. Sometimes he says Mommy ruined his life by leaving him alone. My jaw tightened. Has he ever hurt you? She hesitated too long. That silence said more than words. He doesn't mean to, she rushed to say. He just gets mad. I sat on the edge of her bed. Listen to me carefully, I said. Nothing that happens in that house is your fault. Not ever. Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears away like she wasn't used to letting them fall. I turned off the light and stayed sitting there until her breathing finally slowed. Then I stepped into the hallway and called Daniel. He answered on the third ring. Mark. He didn't sound panicked. He sounded annoyed. Is Lily with you? He asked flatly. Yes. Daniel left that morning without Lily. But he didn't leave defeated. He left thinking. And that worried me more. The moment the door closed, I called a family attorney recommended by a friend. By noon, I was sitting in a glass office downtown, explaining everything from the annual transfers to the bank statements Lily found. The attorney listened carefully. Financial misuse helps, she said. But custody isn't about money. It's about safety. She's afraid of him, I said. Fear needs documentation, she replied gently. Proof. Records. Witnesses. I nodded. Then she asked the question that lingered in the air like smoke. Has there been physical abuse? I thought about Lily's hesitation. The silence. The way she avoided eye contact. She hasn't said it clearly, I admitted. That makes this harder. Harder. Not impossible. I left her office with paperwork and a list of steps. Temporary guardianship petition. Emergency hearing request. Child welfare evaluation. It felt like entering a maze with no map. When I got home, Lily was sitting on the living room floor drawing. What are you making? I asked. A house, she said. You sat beside here. The house had 2 windows. A door. A son in the corner. No father. Just a small stick figure, and a taller one holding hands. I swallowed. Is that us? I asked softly. She nodded. Do you miss your dad? I asked carefully. She didn't answer right away. I miss when he used to laugh, she said finally. Before Mommy died. That sentence hit differently. Not hate. Loss. Even now, she wasn't angry. She was grieving a version of him that no longer existed. That night, Daniel texted again. You have 24 hours before I file kidnapping charges. The word kidnapping was deliberate. Calculated. I forwarded the message to the attorney. She replied within minutes. Let him. It strengthens your case that he's escalating. Escalating. The next morning, Lily had a small bruise on her upper arm. I noticed it when she reached for cereal. How did that happen? I asked gently. She froze. Then shrugged. I bump into things. It was almost rehearsed. I knelt down. Did your dad grab you? Her eyes filled instantly. Not dramatic tears. Quiet ones. Yes, she whispered. When? Last week. For what? He said I was talking back. My chest felt tight. Did he hit you? She shook her head quickly. Just grabbed me. Just. I took a photo of the bruise. Then another. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. That afternoon, Daniel filed a police report. 2 officers showed up at my door. Calm. Professional. We received a complaint regarding custodial interference. One of them said. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I showed them the bank statements. The transfer records. The bruise. Lily stood behind me, small fingers wrapped around my shirt. One officer crouched down to her level. Are you okay? He asked gently. She looked at me first. Then at him. I don't want to go back, she said. That was enough for them to pause. They didn't remove her. But they made it clear. Without a court order. This was temporary. Temporary. Daniel knew that. He was betting on the system. On time. On pressure. That evening, something unexpected happened. Lily asked to see her mom's old photos. I pulled out a box I'd kept after the funeral. Pictures from childhood. Birthdays. College graduation. Her wedding. Lily held one photo longer than the others. It was from 3 years ago. Just weeks before Emily died. In the picture, Emily looked tired. Not sick. Just worn. Mommy was crying that day, Lily said quietly. I looked at her sharply. Why? She thought I couldn't hear. But she was yelling at Daddy. My pulse quickened. What were they fighting about? Lily closed her eyes like she was replaying it. Money. The word dropped like a stone. What about money? He said she didn't understand investments. She said he was lying. Lying. I felt the room shift. Did she ever say he was gambling? I asked carefully. Lily's eyes widened. Yes. My hands went still. She said he promised he stopped. Stopped. Which meant he had done it before. Before Emily died. How long were they fighting? I asked. A lot, Lily said. Mommy said she was going to check the accounts herself. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. And then, I whispered, she got sick. Emily's death had been ruled a sudden cardiac event. No foul play. No suspicion. But now there were cracks in the timeline. Did Daddy ever say anything about the hospital? I asked. Lily thought for a moment. He didn't want Mommy to go at first, she said. He said we couldn't afford another doctor. Another doctor. I stood up slowly. Suddenly, the money transfers felt smaller. This wasn't just about $81,000. This might be about something that started before Emily ever died. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled up old emails between me and my sister. There were a few messages about financial stress, about Daniel making risky choices. One line stopped me cold. If anything ever happens to me, promise you'll look after Lily. At the time, I thought it was just anxiety talking. Now it felt like something else. The next morning, my attorney called. Daniel hired a strong lawyer, she said. He's claiming you're manipulating Lily, that you're unstable. I almost laughed. He's also requesting an immediate hearing. When? 3 days. 3 days. This was moving faster than I expected. And then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice. You don't know me, she said. But I think we need to talk about your sister. My grip tightened. Who is this? My name is Rachel, she replied. I used to work at the casino your brother-in-law frequents. Silence stretched between us. I think, she continued carefully, that you deserve to know how deep his debts actually went. My heart began to pound. How deep? I asked. Her voice dropped. Deep enough that the week your sister died, he was being threatened. The air left my lungs. Threatened? For what? Unpaid losses. The room felt smaller again. The walls closer. What are you saying? I asked quietly. There was a pause. Then she said something that changed everything. I'm saying her death might not have been as simple as they told you. If you're ready, part 4 is where the past starts unraveling. And Daniel realizes secrets don't stay buried forever. I didn't tell Lily about the phone call. Not yet. Children carry enough weight without inheriting adult suspicions. But I couldn't ignore what Rachel said. That night, I called her back. We met the next morning in a quiet cafe outside the city. She looked nervous. Not dramatic. Not attention-seeking. Just someone who had debated whether staying silent was easier. I'm not here for money, she said before I even sat down. I didn't assume you were. She studied my face for a moment, maybe checking if I looked like the kind of man who could handle what she was about to say. Your brother-in-law had a private line of credit at the casino, she began. Not small amounts. 6 figures. My chest tightened. How long? Over a year before your sister passed. 6 figures. That wasn't stress gambling. That was addiction. He lost heavily the month she died, Rachel continued. And when he couldn't pay, things escalated. What does escalated mean? I asked quietly. It means men started calling him, visiting him. Not politely. I felt something cold move through me. Are you saying someone hurt my sister? I'm saying I don't know, she replied carefully. But I know this. The week she died, he begged for an extension. Said he had a solution coming. A solution? What solution? She shook her head. He wouldn't say. But 2 days later, your sister passed. Silence settled between us. Emily's death had been ruled natural. Sudden cardiac arrhythmia. No sign of trauma. No investigation. But now there were threads that didn't line up. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Rachel hesitated. Because I have a daughter, she said softly. And if something felt wrong about her death, I'd want to know. When I got back home, she said, Lily was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. I'm thinking. She looked up when I walked in. She studied me like she didn't fully believe that. Daddy gets quiet when he's mad too, she added. That sentence lingered. I knelt in front of her. Lily, do you remember the week Mommy died? Her face changed instantly. Guarded. A little. Did anything strange happen? She looked down at her pencil. There were men at the house. My heart stopped. What kind of men? They were loud. Daddy told me to stay upstairs. Did you see them? She nodded slowly. One had a tattoo on his neck. Did they argue? Yes. About what? Money. The same word again. Money. My mind was racing now. If Daniel owed 6 figures, if collectors were pressuring him, if Emily was threatening to check accounts, 1,000 possibilities formed, none of them good. Did Mommy talk to the men? I asked carefully. No, Lily whispered. But I heard a crash. A crash? Did you tell anyone this before? She shook her head. Daddy said not to talk about that day. He said it would make people take me away. There it was. Control through fear. I stood up slowly. This was no longer just a custody fight. This was about truth. And if there was even a small chance Emily's death involved pressure, stress, threats, I couldn't ignore it. That evening, Daniel called again. I'm filing for full custody, he said coldly. You've turned her against me. You should be more worried about your debts, I replied. Silence. A sharp inhale. You don't know what you're talking about. I know about the casino line of credit. His voice changed. Not angry. Alarmed. Who have you been speaking to? That doesn't matter. It does to me. For the first time since this started, I heard something close to fear. You're digging into things you don't understand, he said. Then help me understand, I replied calmly. Why were collectors at your house the week Emily died? Silence. Heavy. Thick. Watch yourself, he said quietly. And then he hung up. Not defensive. Not shouting. Warning. That night, I barely slept. At 2:17 a.m. my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But I did. A male voice this time. Low. Controlled. You should stop asking questions, he said. Who is this? You're stirring old dust. I'm looking for the truth about my sister. A short pause. Some truths cost more than $27,000 a year. My blood ran cold. How did you? The line went dead. I stared at the screen for a long time. That wasn't Daniel. That was someone else. Someone who knew about the money. The next morning I filed 2 things. Emergency custody petition. And a formal request to reopen Emily's financial records before her death. Not to accuse. Not yet. But to follow the trail. When I got home, Lily was watching television quietly. She looked smaller somehow. More fragile. Uncle Mark, she said softly. Yes. If Mommy didn't die, would Daddy still be nice? The innocence in that question broke something inside me. I don't know, I answered honestly. She nodded. I think Mommy was scared before she died. That sentence settled in my chest like stone. Why do you think that? I asked gently. She hugged me really tight that night, Lily whispered. And she said if anything ever feels wrong, I should find you. The room went silent. Emily had known something. Maybe not everything, but something. And she had chosen me. Not Daniel. Me. That wasn't random. That was instinct. And instinct rarely lies. 3 days later, we walked into the courthouse for the emergency hearing. Daniel stood across the room with his attorney. He looked composed, controlled, like a man confident the system would protect him. But when his eyes met mine, there was something else there now. Concern. Because he knew I wasn't just fighting for custody anymore. I was digging into the past. And the past was starting to move. The judge called the case. Daniel's lawyer painted me as an overreaching uncle with money and influence. My attorney presented the transfers, the bank statements, the bruise, Lily's reluctance to return. And then she said something that shifted the room. There are also unresolved financial pressures surrounding the time of the mother's death. Daniel's head snapped toward us. That's irrelevant, his lawyer objected. Not if those pressures created instability in the household. My attorney replied calmly. The judge leaned back, studying Daniel now, not just as a father, but as a man with something to hide. Temporary joint review was granted. Child services evaluation ordered. Lily would remain with me until the investigation concluded. It wasn't permanent, but it was a crack. A legal crack. As we left the courthouse, Daniel walked past me slowly. You think you're protecting her, he said under his breath. I am. You're making it worse. For who? I asked quietly. He didn't answer. He just walked away. That night, Lily slept peacefully for the first time. No dosing. No whispering. Just quiet breathing. But I didn't feel peace. Because the anonymous call still echoed in my mind. Some truths cost more than $27,000 a year. I had a feeling this wasn't just about gambling anymore. And if I kept digging, I might uncover something no one was ready to face. Including me. If you're ready, Part 5 is where a hidden document surfaces, and Daniel's version of the past starts collapsing. 3 days after the hearing, my attorney called with something in her voice I hadn't heard before. Momentum. We received preliminary financial disclosures, she said. And there's a discrepancy. What kind of discrepancy? There was a life insurance policy on your sister. I froze. There shouldn't have been, I said. She told me once they couldn't afford one. There was, she replied. And it was updated 6 months before her death. Updated. How much? $1 million. The number didn't feel real. That's not possible, I said slowly. It gets more interesting, she continued. Daniel increased the coverage and changed part of the payout structure. My pulse was loud in my ears. Changed it how? He made himself sole primary beneficiary. Of course he did. Was there any investigation at the time? I asked. No, she said. Natural causes. Quick payout. How quick? For weeks. For weeks after Emily died, Daniel received $1 million. And still told Lily they were broke. I ended the call and sat in silence. $81,000 from me. $1 million from insurance. 6-figure gambling debt. Collectors at the house. Emily planning to check the accounts. The timeline wasn't just messy. It was tightening. That evening, Lily was drawing again. Can I ask you something? I said gently. She nodded. After Mommy went to the hospital, did Daddy seem sad? She thought for a long time. Not right away, she said. My chest tightened. What do you mean? He was on the phone a lot. With who? I don't know. But he kept saying, it's handled. Handled. The word felt like a blade. And after? I asked carefully. He cried at the funeral, she said. But at home he just got quiet. Not broken. Not shattered. Quiet. I didn't want to believe where my thoughts were heading. Grief looks different on everyone. But money leaves trails. The next morning, Child Services requested to inspect Daniel's house. I didn't tell him. I didn't need to. When they arrived unannounced, they found more than clutter. They found overdue utility notices, empty liquor bottles, and in his home office drawer, casino markers, unpaid. He called me that afternoon. You think you've won something? He snapped. I think the truth is catching up. You have no idea what pressure I was under. So you insured your wife for $1 million? Silence. You're twisting this. Am I? She agreed to that policy. Did she know you were drowning in debt? His breathing grew heavier. You're trying to make me a monster. No, I said quietly. I'm trying to understand how a man who said he was struggling suddenly managed to hide $1 million payout. That's when he said it. You think I killed her? The accusation hung in the air. I hadn't said it. But he had. I think, I replied slowly, that you benefited from her death. He didn't respond for several seconds. Then lower now, controlled. You're going to regret this. He hung up. That night, something arrived in my mailbox. No return address. Just a plain envelope. Inside, a photocopy of a document. Not insurance. Not bank statements. A medical note. Dated 2 days before Emily died. It was from her primary care physician. Recommendation. Immediate cardiac evaluation. Elevated stress markers. Reported severe anxiety due to financial instability at home. My hands trembled. She had known something was wrong. Her body had been reacting. Stress doesn't just hurt emotionally. It damages physically. If Daniel's debts and threats had pushed her into constant fear, if collectors had shown up, if arguments had escalated, could that stress have triggered her heart condition? Legally, that's not murder. But morally? It's something close. The next hearing approached faster than expected. Daniel looked different this time. Less confident. More defensive. Child Services had recommended temporary supervised visitation only. The judge reviewed the insurance documents, the gambling debts, the house condition. Then he looked at Daniel. Why was your daughter unaware of a $1 million life insurance payout? The judge asked. Daniel swallowed. I was protecting her. From what? The judge asked calmly. He didn't answer. The courtroom felt smaller. The judge turned to me. Mr. Bennett, are you prepared to assume long-term guardianship if necessary? Without hesitation. Yes. Lily squeezed my hand. Daniel saw it. And something in him cracked. Not rage. Not tears. Desperation. You're turning her against me, he said hoarsely. No. Irrepliquietly. Your choices did that. The judge adjourned with a temporary order. Lily would remain with me. Full custody hearing scheduled. Insurance investigation flagged for review. It wasn't a criminal case. Not yet. But the cracks were widening. That evening, Lily sat beside me on the couch. Am I staying? She asked softly. For now, I said. She nodded. Then she leaned against me. A small, tired child who had been carrying secrets too big for her. After she fell asleep, I stared at the envelope again. No return address. Which meant someone else knew. Someone else had been watching. And if they were willing to send documents, what else were they holding? My phone buzzed just after midnight. Another unknown number. I answered. The same low male voice. You should have stopped when you had custody, he said. I'm not afraid of you, I replied. You should be. Did Daniel pay you with insurance money? I asked. Silence. Then. He paid what he owed. Owed. So you were there? I pressed. A long pause. I was there when he promised it would be solved, the man said quietly. And was it? I asked. Another pause. Yes. The line went dead. I sat there in the dark, heart pounding. If Daniel had promised collectors the debt would be solved. And 4 weeks later he paid in full. The $1 million payout wasn't just survival money. It was a lifeline. For him. Not for Lily. And now I understood something chilling. Whether he directly caused Emily's death or not. He had built a world around her that was collapsing. And when it did, he was the only one who walked away richer. Part 6 isn't about anger. It's about consequences. And Daniel is about to face his. If you're ready, we finish this. The full custody hearing was set for early spring. By then, Lily had been living with me for almost 4 months. For months of quiet dinners. For months of therapy sessions. For months of sleeping through the night. She had stopped flinching at sudden noises. She had started laughing again. That mattered more than anything else. The insurance company had begun a formal review. Not a criminal investigation, but a financial audit. When large policies are paid out and connected to undisclosed debt patterns, questions get asked. Daniel was being asked those questions now. He called me one last time before the final hearing. You've destroyed my life, he said. No. Irrepliquibly. Your choices did. You think you're a hero? He snapped. You think she'll thank you when she grows up without a father? She already grew up without one, I said quietly. Silence. Then softer, almost tired. I didn't kill her. It was the first time he'd said it without anger. I closed my eyes. Then tell me the truth. A long pause. I was drowning, he admitted. The debts were real. The threats were real. She found out how bad it was. She said she was leaving. Leaving. The word echoed. She said she was taking Lily, he continued. She said she'd expose everything. My grip tightened around the phone. And that night we fought. Hard. She was screaming. I was screaming. She said I was going to lose everything. His voice cracked slightly. She collapsed. The room felt still. What did you do? I asked. I thought she was panicking. I told her to calm down. She couldn't breathe. His breathing grew uneven. I waited too long to call 911. There it was. Not poison. Not a staged accident. Neglect. Delay. Pride. You waited because you were angry, I said quietly. I waited because I didn't think it was serious, he whispered. And by the time I realized, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Stress, fear, debt, threats, a violent argument, and a man too consumed with himself to act fast enough. That's how she died. Not by a villain's master plan, but by a selfish man's hesitation. You still took the insurance money, I said. I had to pay them, he replied instantly. You don't understand what they would have done. And Lily? I asked. What would they have done to her if you couldn't pay? He didn't answer. Because he knew. At the final hearing, the courtroom felt heavier than before. Daniel looked smaller. Not physically, but emotionally. Child Services presented their report. Unstable environment, alcohol abuse concerns, emotional intimidation, financial deception. The insurance audit had confirmed the payout and the immediate settlement of high-risk gambling debt. No criminal charge. But the pattern was clear. The judge looked at Daniel for a long time. You may not have intended harm, the judge said carefully, but your actions created an environment of fear and instability. Your daughter's well-being must come first. Daniel's shoulders slumped. Full custody was granted to me. Supervised visitation rights only. Not revenge. Not prison. But consequences. After the hearing, Daniel approached Lily carefully. She stood beside me. Can I hug you? He asked her. She hesitated, then nodded once. The hug was brief, awkward, fragile. When he pulled back, his eyes were red. I'm sorry, he said to her. She didn't say anything. Because sometimes children don't have words for the kind of damage adults create. Months passed. The insurance company never pressed charges. There wasn't enough for criminal liability. Stress-induced cardiac death is complicated. Argument arrêté crime. But the truth didn't need a courtroom sentence to exist. Lily started third grade in Chicago. New friends. New shoes that didn't hurt her feet. A room that was only hers. One evening, she came home with a school assignment. Write about a hero in your life. She sat at the kitchen table thinking. Is mommy a hero? She asked me. Yes, I said immediately. She loved you more than anything. She nodded. Then she kept writing. When she finished, she handed me the paper. It wasn't about me. It was about her mom. About how her mom told her to find me if something ever felt wrong. About how brave people sometimes don't look brave. About how love can protect you even after someone is gone. I swallowed hard reading it. Did I do the right thing? She asked softly. You did, I said. Because she had. She got on a bus alone at 8 years old. She broke silence. She chose safety. 3 years after Emily's death, I finally visited her grave again. This time, not with guilt, not with confusion, but with clarity. I kept my promise, I told her quietly. The wind moved through the trees. And for the first time since that October morning, I didn't feel helpless. Daniel still sees Lily once a month. Supervised. Careful. Controlled. He's quieter now. Less defensive. Maybe regret does what fear never could. But some damage can't be undone. It can only be acknowledged. The $81,000 I sent? Gone. The $1 million insurance payout? Gone. But Lily's future? Protected. And in the end, that's what mattered. Because sometimes the worst betrayal isn't dramatic. It's slow. It's selfish. It's a delay in dialing 911. And sometimes justice isn't prison. It's watching the child you failed grow strong without you. 3 years ago, I promised my sister I'd protect her daughter. I didn't know it would mean uncovering secrets. I didn't know it would mean tearing apart what little family we had left. But if I had to choose again, I'd still open that door. I'd still kneel in that lobby. And I'd still say the same thing. You're safe now. And this time, she believes it.